Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for today's webinar on document searching heating up, give employees and/or the public access. My name is Laura Froyam. I'm an account executive here at CDI, and on the line with me, I have one of our business process engineer experts, Michael Butler, and he's going to walk us through the demo and configuration portion of this webinar today. So to start, we've got a few housekeeping items. So everybody's going to be muted during the duration of this presentation. And if you have questions at any time, please take a moment to type them into the questions box. We will be addressing those at the end of today's session. And as always, if you are interested in the slides or screenshots, definitely reach out, let us know. You can type that into the questions box and I'll send those along after today's call. And then this webinar will be recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel within a couple of days. So on today's agenda, we are going to learn a little bit about Weblink or the public portal for those of you who may not be super familiar. We're going to talk about licensing considerations and different platforms and options. And then Butler's going to jump into how to configure security, best practices, some custom searches, and then customizing the Weblink interface. During the demonstration, the live piece, we will be focusing on how to make those configurations in a self-hosted environment. But at the end of that, I'll jump into the cloud environment and just kind of show you where you can make those same customizations. But you can definitely follow along because they are quite similar. So what is the Weblink or public portal? Laserfiche Weblink is Laserfiche public portal. They are synonymous with one another. Weblink does have minimal user connectivity, but they essentially do the same thing. They allow your public read-only access to areas of your Laserfiche repository. And then they can access it through a web browser, get access to it through a link or through your website. There's a couple of different options that we'll talk about. So I actually want to jump right into taking a look at a few examples. So this first one is going to be our City of CDI. This is our demo page, and I just kind of wanted to showcase how one way you can configure this into your system. So you've got your city website or your organizational website, and if you want documents to be public facing, you can just have a button where users click that button and then it will bring them directly to your customizable public portal. So this is ours. It's very simple, but as you can see, you can customize the logo, some of the colors, and then these are some of those search links that we'll dig into a little bit later. Another example is here from the city of Renton. So if you want to look at their documents, you definitely can, and we're just going to click into the digital records library. And you can see here they've got their own logo, they've customized their colors a little bit, and then they've got multiple search criteria that you can use. And then I actually want to jump over to La Quinta. And theirs, I think, is actually pretty neat. So we're going to go here to our city documents. And they've got lots of customizable searches for you to click on. So depending on the type of document that you're looking for, you can configure these quick searches into your publicly facing documents. And so up here, this is just the quick search bar. So you could type in, road or, permit or whatever you want to look for. Otherwise, you can go into these quick searches and click on ordinance, and then we'll take a look at what this next screen looks like. It allows you to search by any of the metadata information associated with those documents, or you can come up here and click the browse button and peruse through the folder structure of information that, again, they make publicly available. So a couple of different ways you can grant access to your documents. So let's talk a little bit about licensing. So with Laserfiche, there is kind of two main platforms you can consider. There's Laserfiche Cloud, which is a full software as a service application where you're not maintaining any of the infrastructure. Laserfiche does it all for you. And then there's self-hosted platforms, and that includes business subscriptions, professional subscriptions, or some of the older licensing platforms such as Rio, Avante, or Team or United. And so depending on the platform that you go with, there are different options for bundling the Weblink or public portal into your system. So with the cloud system, it's automatically bundled into the business tier or a municipality site license tier, but it's added on to the professionals. And then with your self-hosted systems, it's actually bundled into the professional tier and the site license, similar to your cloud, and it's an add-on to everything else. And so we'll kind of dig into that a little bit more. If we're looking at Laserfiche Cloud, you have the ability to add up to 1,000 views per month. So that means 1,000 different clicks on documents within your repository. This does get monitored, and if you do get close to your limits as your reseller, we get a notification, and then we can talk to you about, hey, it might be time to adjust your quantity or whatever it may be from there. But you can add additional views, or you can add a module add-on for 10,000 views with additional 10,000 increments available. If you get a business tier or site license of Laserfiche Cloud, you get unlimited views per month. So you don't have to worry about those limitations or calculating, how many clicks you've had. With self-hosted, it's a little bit different. It's not so much about the views, so much as how many instances of Laserfiche you have, or how many Laserfiche servers you want configuration for. So with the professional tier, you can add it for 1 server, 2 servers, or unlimited servers, and then it's bundled in with unlimited servers and views for the business tier. And then again, if we go into some of our old licensing options, the perpetual with Rio or Avante, there are different connections you can set up. And so you can have 25 concurrent connections, and that just means 25 different people can be connected to your repository in read-only fashion at any given time. Or you can have unlimited connections with 1 server, 2 servers, unlimited servers. Avante is a small, typically meant for smaller organizations. So there are some smaller priced options for deploying a public portal, which you could see here. And if you're not sure and you're interested in adding this public portal functionality to your system, definitely just reach out to our team. We'll help you get set up with what makes sense. And you can always upgrade later if you need to. So if you start small and find, oh, we are, hitting errors, our public can't log in, they keep notifying us, we can definitely quote you on upgrading it from there. So again, you can always start small and move up. So next, I kind of want to talk about some considerations. So the main one really that I like to call out is that if you have a Laserfiche Cloud instance and you are using the public portal, it's really great for residents to self-serve and other constituents of your organization to self-serve and find the documents that they need. But the caveat is you can only configure 1 public profile. And the reason why this makes a difference is because in a self-hosted instance, you have the ability to set up Weblink either public-facing, so again, people external to your organization can access it, but some of our organizations also set it up internally facing. So when employees log into the network and they don't have a Laserfiche username and password, they can still get read-only access. And so it can be configured for both internal and external use, so more than 1 instance. But with Laserfiche Cloud, you cannot do that. So it's just 1 public profile for all. And then there are some analytics and reporting differences, but security access and configuration complexity is a little bit easier in cloud. So definitely pros and cons depending on how you plan to use it. And then with a self-hosted deployment of Laserfiche, the public portal considerations here, the main one to think about is just infrastructure. Because it's self-hosted within your network, your team is required to set up and maintain the infrastructure. Now, the CDI support team is happy to help and make recommendations on how you set it up and configure it. But again, this is something typically set up by your team. They talk a lot about having it set up outside of the DMZ on a separate server, but it's usually a best practice recommendation to set it up behind a reverse proxy. And again, if you're not sure what that means, I don't either, but our support team does, and they'd definitely be happy to help you through it. So from here, we're actually gonna jump into the live demo, and I'm gonna let Butler take it over, but we're going to again show on a self-hosted environment how to configure some of the security best practices with configuring security, creating a custom search, and then customizing the interface where you can change your colors and logos and things like that. So I'm gonna kick it over to Butler here.
Thank you, Laura. A reverse proxy, for anyone who's interested, is, a proxy server is, hopefully most of you are familiar with it when browsing, right? You basically say all of my traffic is going to go through some intermediary server before reaching the internet. So the internet is basically being proxied through one machine. A reverse proxy is the opposite of that, right? The internet comes to that proxy machine and then is passed along to your internal server. So it's basically putting almost like a sacrificial server in front of your internal server for protection. So that's all a reverse proxy is. But now that the nerdy stuff is out of the way, let's take a look at what Weblink is like. So I'm going to actually open up the Laserfiche Weblink Designer. Weblink Designer. There we go. So if I open this Weblink Designer, this is how you would initially set up your configuration. It's going to ask me to log in, which makes a lot of sense because you don't want just anybody coming in and configuring your Weblink. So this would be a local administrator to the server. So once I'm logged in, you might notice that I already have a repository configured. So all I've specified is the server address. You can use a fully qualified domain name, which would be recommended, repository name, and then how do you expect people to log in? And frankly, this is a bad configuration. And I did this on purpose to show you why. But I'm using the admin user. The admin user typically has full access to a repository, which is not typically what you want to expose to the internet. So if I actually opened up my Weblink, and I clicked browse, I could see the entire repository. Well, that's not very secure. That's not what I want to put out on the internet. So best practice is to create a public user. And this is how I like to set mine up. So I use LFDS for my user configuration. So yes. You'll notice if I go under my accounts, I've got a user literally called public. Now, when I'm setting this up, when I'm doing initial configuration, I like to actually give it a license. We're going to take this license away when we're ready to go into production, but for testing, it is a lot easier to be able to actually log in as that user and see what that user is going to see and have access to. So if you've got a spare license that you can just borrow for a little bit, create a user. Like I said, my favorite is to just name it public. I even make the password public because frankly, this guy's going to be really locked down. It's not going to have a license anyway, so it's not going to be able to log in. Now, if you want to make it even more secure, create a very secure password. Totally recommend it. But this is a demo, and public is good enough for a demo. So I'm going to go ahead and save my change because I gave it a license. Like I said, my super secret password is public. I'm going to open up 2 instances of the Laserfiche client. Now, I'm an old man, so I like a desktop application. I'm actually going to log into the Laserfiche desktop application into my repository that I'm building my demo for. I'm going to log in once as my admin user. You don't necessarily have to use admin, but certainly someone who can administer security. And I'm going to try here and dock it on the left side. Here's my admin. I'm going to open a second Laserfiche client and try and dock it on the right. There we go. Hey, success. We're going to log in this time as that public user. Now, I'm sorry. Before I should say I had to grant. So because I created that user in LFDS, I would have to grant that public user access to the repository. So if I looked in my administration console, eventually, when that loads, ta-da. Oh, good. I've exceeded my number of license logins. I'd actually see that I granted that I added the public user as a recognized user, and said that it was allowed access to my repository. So not a whole lot. That's regular, user administration. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, especially since I'm running out of licenses. So on my right, I can see that I'm logged in as the public user, and on my left, I can see I'm logged in as the admin user. Now, right now, the public user has access to everything. The public user can see everything. Why is that? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to right click on my root folder, and most likely this is the case. If you open the access rights, we see by default, when you create your repository, if you haven't updated your security, the everyone group is granted access at the root folder. Not a great idea. Saying everyone can see everything is bad security. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that everyone user from my root. And now if I come over to my public user and I actually just refresh the page, you didn't see it, but I pressed F5 on my keyboard. You could also go to view and refresh. You can see they now see nothing. And this is perfect. This is really what I want to start with. That public user can't see anything. Well, now I'm going to go and dictate what they can see. So you know what? I'm going to say out of this entire repository, this very garbled demo repository where I throw all sorts of garbage in, we're going to say that they can only see the government folder. And I want them to see everything within the government folder because, of course, the government is absolutely wide open. We love to share everything with the public because it's all public record. So I'm going to right click on government. I'm going to go to access rights. I'm going to add my public user. Very straightforward who it is and what they're doing. I'm just going to say this folder, all folders and documents. And by adding them there, really, I don't have to grant all of this privilege because Weblink is read only. So really all they can do is browse and read. I'll go ahead and let them see annotations as well. That's probably a good thing. So we're going to say they can browse, read, see annotations. Again, you may not want them to see annotations. You can definitely uncheck that. But for me, I'm going to say they can just see everything. When I click OK, I come back over to my public window, and this time I'm going to click view and refresh just so you see me do it. Now I can see they see the government folder. Perfect. That's exactly what I want the general public to be able to see. That's enough for me. I've done it. I've configured security all that I need to. At this point, I could turn around. I could say, great. I'm going to go ahead and log out. I should do that first. So I'm going to log out as that public user. I'm going to go into my LFDS where I administer licensing, and I'm going to take that license back. They don't need a license anymore. None. Click save. So now, even though I gave that public user a really bad password, even if they tried to sign back in, I could put that public password back in. And it's going to say, no dice, buddy, you can't log in like that. So I've removed that user effectively from being able to log in. Cool. Let's go configure Weblink to use my new user. So I'm going to edit this profile. Let's hit cancel. So how do I do that, right? I go to connections. I click on this cute little pencil, click edit. I'm going to remove the admin user, going to put in public and my super secret password, public, click save. Cool, it accepted that, no problem. So now what would happen? Remember before when we had the admin user, we could see absolutely everything. If I refresh this right now, well, and then it's going to give me, because the number of sessions has reached the license limit. I'm signed in too many times. I love it when that happens. Let's go ahead and see if we can't close some stuff. This is what happens when you're running a demo license with very few licenses. So now if I come in and let's just close this and open a fresh one, huh? Well, that's awesome. Because the number of sessions licensed of the user account is, well, it wouldn't be a demo if things didn't go wrong, right? Let's see what we can do. See if there's any open connections that I can terminate and try and get this error to go away. Murphy, what are you doing to me, buddy?
I'm pretty sure every demo I do, this happens in, so you're not alone.
Invalid session. Wonderful. Well, maybe I should have started the morning with a server reboot, huh? Well, I'll tell you what, just a maybe I fat fingered that password. Well, I'll tell you what, just to get past this, you should not have to give this user a license. I'm going to give it one just to try and keep things rolling here. Well, ain't that interesting? Okay, well, folks, I know it looks like you should, like it needs a license, but I can promise you it doesn't. I'm not sure what I've got configured incorrectly, but you shouldn't have to give your user a license. However, what I did promise was that the security would be correct, and at least now it is. Now that government user or that government folder is the only folder that they can see in the entire repository. Now, that means they can come in here and they can start browsing through folders and look at whatever the heck they want. That's not ideal if you ask me. That's not what I like, because if any of you are actually you know, municipalities who set up Weblink, you'll know that you've got those problem people that like to go and find trouble. So allowing users to just browse through is not my preference. So a lot of times I'll go to the navigation portion, and right here where it says show browse link, I like to put no. I don't want people to browse through. I want to drive people directly to the search, because if they're searching for something, they at least have to have some idea of what they're looking for instead of just going to hunt for trouble. So now if I go and I look again, you'll see that browse button is missing. They can't just start browsing through folders. Now they have this general search window here. This is like that quick search at the top of the Laserfiche client, which is very generic, right? If I put in Acme here, it's going to search for the word Acme in a file name, in a folder name, in document contents, in just about every field on a document. It's a really rather inefficient search. Now that can be configured a little bit better to make it a little more efficient, but it's real generic. Let's try and create some very specific searches so that we can drive people to get answers they're looking for a bit faster. So if I go to my welcome page, which is what they call this is the welcome page. I go to my welcome page designer, and we're going to create a new link here. I have to authenticate so they know who the heck I am. I know that I'm someone who legitimately should have access. Now I could actually say, you know what, we're going to create a link directly to the I don't know, city clerk community development. Let's go community development. We're gonna call it community development because that just makes sense. If I could spell all right, I click OK. Let's save that. Great. Now if I came here and I refreshed, what does that do? That creates this link right here. When I click on it, it's going to drive me straight into, you can see, into folder structure, government, community development. Now they could actually browse through these folders. So I kind of jumped over. We do have these cookie crumbs left over, which means they could actually backtrack and say, oh, I can go back and start navigating around. Well, we should probably get rid of that then. Where's that? Is it in document view? Display breadcrumbs. I said cookie crumbs. Sorry, breadcrumbs. We'll say no. Save that. So let's go back. Now when I click on community development, still showing the breadcrumbs, of course. Maybe I didn't save the change. Display breadcrumbs. No, save the change. I may have to refresh entirely. Well, this demo's going well already. So let's keep looking at what we can do with the welcome page. While my screen freezes up. Sorry, folks, I'm not sure what's going on.
Too many good changes all at once.
Right? There we go, got back. Glad to see it happen. So let's create a custom search. Because really, driving people to a single folder is okay, but having them be able to do a search, much more valuable. So if we go to our search form, we're going to create a new search form. Let's call it invoices. We could give it a description. I don't know, find invoices. I'm going to click create. At this point, we've got a few options. We can do a quick search, which is that very broad search. But because we actually have an invoice template, I'm going to use that. So if I click here, I selected my template. I can see here are all the fields that are on that invoice template. I'm going to let them search by vendor name. And we can say whether or not it's required. Like if you're going to search for a vendor, you better have that vendor name. Or we can say invoice number, and I'm going to leave it as either, so they can choose. I'm not going to make either one required. You can actually add some custom text, so we could say, you know, please enter either the vendor name or invoice OIC number. We're going to save that. Now that we've created, and we can dictate how those search results should look by providing, you know, ordering and things like that. We could say has to match any, which is what we probably would want because we want them to be able to put either the vendor name or the vendor number. We could say it has to match both. So we can try and be real specific about that search term. We can specify an order to say, well, I want it sorted by maybe the invoice date. So you could sort it that way. I'm going to leave it with the default. So now that I have a search form, I can create a search link. And so by doing that, excuse me, I'm going to do use a search form, and we can give it a different title. I don't know, invoice searching. And say okay. Let's click save. So now hopefully the changes I've made will actually show up in my web link. Hey, good, thank goodness. So when I click on invoice searching, we'll see this nice little pre-built, you know, very specific, very driven list. And so if I say Acme and I click submit, I get a list of invoices from the Acme vendor, just the Acme vendor. So to me, I don't like driving people to folders. I like driving people to searches because they're going to get exactly what they're looking for. Well, maybe not exactly what they're looking for. You hope they find exactly what they're looking for, but they're only seeing things that are pertinent to what they're searching. They can't go hunt. It's more difficult for them to go hunting for trouble. And then, clicking on a search result will display the search value. Okay. There's really one more thing you can add to this custom links. Help me out. Welcome page, and that is a custom link. So if I say, oh, I want to do a external URL, you really just provide, I don't know, find. I'm getting really creative here, right? Example.com. Wow, not exactly exciting, but fulfills the need. Let's go home. And you can see here's my example, which takes me to example.com, which, hey, really neat domain. So probably not real useful to send them to example.com, but maybe you want to be able to drive them to your home page or some sort of other helpful links within your website. You can actually add them right there. But this looks rather boring, doesn't it? Probably not what you want to drive your public to. I mean, it says Laserfiche up there. Let's go play with that. So if I go to theming, I can change all sorts of things from the background to text color, change the links, border, what have you. I'm actually going to go straight over to images. You can change the image. I've got my nice little CDI hiking sign. We're going to go ahead and enable that. You can change it all over. Change the background. At any rate, make it look and feel a little bit more like yours. So all I've done really is change the main logo. And by doing so, when I go home, did I click save? Thought I clicked save. There it is. There's my CDI logo. You know, hopefully you'll find something that works for you a little bit better, but you know, you can change your city colors, your city logo, or company colors, company logo, and make it look a little bit more like your website, so it matches your theming. So that's theming. You can change the way search results are presented, you know, and they give you this nice little sample down here, which is real helpful when building things out. So where it's going to look, how it's going to look, whether it wants you to, the thumbnails are minimized. I find that loads a lot better when they're minimized, because then they don't have to render all that image as especially when they do a large search and you get a lot of hits. They can maximize and view the thumbnails as needed rather than showing all of them. Real important when we do look at that public user, you want to make sure that this matches however you set your security up. So I created a user called public. That's why it says public here. This is the person that drives that security. This is what drives what people can see. So this will dictate what is visible and what is not. So let's see, we talked about security and access. We talked about customizing links. We talked about theming. So this is a typical use case for making the web link visible and usable to people outside of your organization. I have a lot of customers that come to me and say, you know what, we need to allow read-only access to a large portion of our repository, or even a small portion of our repository, to a large number of people, right? I don't want to buy a license for everyone at the company, but they need to be able to view these documents. Great. What if we create an internal web link service, right? And what you can actually do is you can configure it. So if we go up here and we say, you know what, I'm going to create another connection. And it's frozen up again. Honestly, I think it's the, I feel bad that it's lagging a little bit. I think it's my connection through the VPN that's lagging out a little bit. So I don't know. Your server should not lag out like that. I believe it's my connection. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create another connection. And I can actually create the connection to the exact same server, 192.168.113.114, same repository. If I could spell the same repository, there we go. Hey, that nice drop down makes it easy. And I could say, I want you to prompt for Laserfiche credentials and say save. So I don't know if you noticed this, but they've got this DB ID right here. So if somebody goes to just Weblink, like that, it's going to load the default. The default was our public form, and it should auto log in and look nice and public, right? But if we change things just a little, so a lot of this will autofill. I just wanted to say Weblink DBID 1. So changing that DBID from a 0 to a 1 now takes me here, and you can, it didn't show it. I wish I'd had it show. That's my bad. So let's do yada yada yada. So now it's prompting me to authenticate. So you could actually create users. Again, these don't have to be licensed users, but you can create users. You can even do domain users using domain group policies. Set up your security in your repository. So, you know, the engineers group has access to this folder and the IT group has access to that folder. And when users authenticate, they'll see whatever they have access to, and they're still using those shared shared licenses that your Weblink user provides. So they can draw from that Weblink public license pool to view documents only using Weblink. You can configure the look and feel to be completely different. So they don't necessarily have to share the same configuration. Mine happens to because I didn't make any changes. Excuse me. Let's enable browse again, just so you can see, because right now you can't really tell anything. I signed in, that's about all you can tell. So if I re-enable browse, now that I'm signed in as the admin user, because I used DBID1, which allowed me to authenticate, I can see everything again. So based off of that DBID, I can have different authentication models, which John Q Public is going to use one that auto logs in with that public user, and my internal users are going to use DBID 0, which they have to specify, but they'll authenticate, and then they can have permissions based off of their user. Laura, how am I doing? Am I going over on time, or am I talking too fast and I'm well under?
No, this is perfect. I think you hit all of the bullet points we wanted to get through, and so I'm gonna switch it back over.
Please do.
Thank you for helping out. So show my screen. Not sure. Hopefully it's showing the right screen. Okay. So what I wanted to walk through really quick, again, Butler walked through all of those configuration options in a self-hosted environment. And so to get access to that, you likely need access to the server where Laserfiche is installed. And that's something typically administrators or IT have. So not every user would have access to make those customizations, you know, without permission. So something you'll have to ask IT. But if you have a Laserfiche cloud environment, most everything that Butler went through is available to you in cloud, again, if you have the appropriate permission. So I just wanted to show you where to find that. So I've already logged into my cloud environment, and it has me here on my homepage. And then I'm just going to click up here to the navigation icon and then go to the public portal designer. And once we log in, you can see here we've got most of the same options that Butler had just gone through, with a couple of exceptions. And then again, that last thing I wanted to call out was Butler had created a second instance of the portal for internal use that is only available in a self-hosted environment. You can't do that within cloud. And so within cloud, you only get one public profile, and that's set up, and that's what everybody gets access to. So again, only one instance here. But otherwise, as you click through, you land here on the theme page. This is where you can change your colors, incorporate images if you want, customize your welcome page by adding your own custom links with those metadata fields, or creating custom links to other external websites. Maybe you want a link to your ArcGIS, or maybe you want a link to the weather, within your area, whatever it may be. But then all the other options are pretty close to the same, all right here for you. So we'll jump back into our PowerPoint here, and I just want to open it up for questions at this point. Hopefully everything for the most part made sense, but of course, if you need anything clarified, feel free to ask questions. And we'll take a look here at the chat, or at the questions box. We've got a comment here letting us know that the finickiness of Laserfiche really does happen to everybody. It's something that our team comes up against. Sometimes it just takes an extra refresh or a restart of the computer. But if you configure Laserfiche frequently, you probably won't run into, oh, it didn't save like it was supposed to, and then you have to log out and log back in. So that's something that's very standard. Thanks for working through it, Butler.
Yeah, I'm annoyed. I still don't know why. I think a server reboot would probably fix it, but thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, doesn't look like we have any other questions, so hopefully this again answered a lot of the questions and gave you some ideas on how you can customize, and really how approachable it is. Doesn't require any coding knowledge or anything like that. Laserfiche in some of the latest versions did take some customization options out, so it is a little bit more limited, but still serves its purpose for allowing you to make your documents publicly accessible. So we'll leave you with some helpful resources. I do want to call out, definitely check out our blog area on our website, because it does have some written instructions on how to make some of these changes that we went through on the webinar today. So definitely a great resource for additional information on configuring your Weblink. And then these, of course, are some Laserfiche resources, so you can take a look at the Solution Exchange, see how other organizations are utilizing their Laserfiche system, or potentially their public portal, and get some additional ideas. And then, as always, if you have any other questions or need anything else, feel free to reach out to me directly. And if it's not something I can help with, I will get you situated with the appropriate department to kind of go from there. But I appreciate everybody joining us today. And again, don't hesitate to reach out with questions, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.